right, Louis Gainor, I think you've got some thoughts to weigh in on this.
Absolutely. I think the critical testimony for the jury to hear was that one of the officers that was there at the investigation, there at the crime scene with Kathleen Savio's body, said, "I know Drew Peterson. He's a good man. He wouldn't hurt his wife." That was the critical, pivotal moment that changed the course of the entire investigation. They have to hammer at that, and I think that's the reason they're going to call the officer today.
But here's the thing, Louis Gainor. I was sitting in that courtroom and I watched Investigator Deal, who was right there at the crime scene, and he's asked the questions, and he had just arrived, and here's a woman dead in the bathtub. And he said, "I didn't know what happened. I didn't know." Well, did you do this test? Did you check for fingerprints? Did you do a luminol test? Did you take a picture of this? Well, he said that somebody told him to take a picture of the orange juice and the pills, so he did that. But his whole demeanor, Louis Gainor, was as though, nah, don't really care, you know, just sort of another day. And he got there at 1:30 in the morning, so I was struck with that he just wanted to get out of there. And if I was a juror listening to this, and even a juror that really likes the CSI effect, that could affect them by saying, wait a minute, why didn't they do any of these tests? Why didn't they just do them as far as a protocol?
That's right. The prosecution has to emphasize the fact that he went in there and was disinterested in finding out the true cause of death. He could have cared less. What they need to focus on was the physical evidence that was there. They have to basically set the table. They've got to establish that it was a staged crime scene. What was missing? Number one, a floor mat near the bathtub. Number two, a towel to use when she got out of the bathtub. There was no soap ring on the bathtub either. What they're going to establish that it was implausible that she was actually going to take a bath, that more likely that Peterson put her body there. That's why they're going to call this newest officer, is to get those key facts to prove that it's a crime scene. And I think the viewers should pay attention. One of the most important things in this case so far is the blue towel, the hand cloth that's on the bathtub. Was it there when they first arrived, or was it placed there after the fact by Peterson, who had access to that room, and to whom the officers gave him a professional courtesy at distance?
It was there.
Prep and interviewed the witness before he got on the stand.
Louis Gainor, here's the problem, and I want to get your factual knowledge of the discovery that here in Illinois, because every state is different. But the problem, the defense is saying, prosecutors knew that he was not only going to say, you know, I don't remember saying that, but that FBI report is wrong. I never said that ever. The prosecutors knew that. They held it for 2 years, and they never told the defense. Is there a duty on prosecutors, even if it is not Brady material? Is there a duty for them to tell the defense this, or the defense, they can find it out for themselves if they do a little work?
There is a responsibility for the prosecutors to turn over all prior statements of a witness who's going to be called in the trial. This is the issue. That witness testified as to what he said to the FBI agent. He also made a statement as to the same thing to the state's attorney's office. The state's attorney should have disclosed the fact that he told them that it was inconsistent. That was the statement that should have been turned over. The discovery rules for criminal cases in Illinois require that. They have to turn that over. And this is the thing. When it comes to investigating this case, the defense could have sent an investigator to speak with that officer, but this is the problem that they'd have. The officer would say, I'm not going to talk to you about the pending case. They would always stonewall that request. And if the defense had known about this, they would have sent the investigator. He would have been told, no, I'm not going to speak to you. And they could have had a devastating impact in cross-examination. They could have said, officer, we sent an investigator to ask you about that statement you made to the FBI, and you refused to talk to us. Isn't that true? Yes. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, he's not here to give you the truth. He's here to hold back the facts from you.
And the jury, right decision or wrong decision, Louis Gainor?
That's fair. The prosecution has the right to present its own case. They can strike strong and hard blows themselves. But this is the issue. The defense needs to embrace those receipts because there's a lot they can do with that. The question is, why is somebody preparing those receipts and keeping them for years as his alibi? Well, this is what you have to say to the jury is, ladies and gentlemen, why are we punishing somebody for keeping good records? And what kind of person would keep records of a receipt that he took his kids to the aquarium downtown? What type of person would keep records that he got donuts with his kids when he took them on that trip? A father in the midst of a nasty divorce. That's who would keep those records. Why are we going to hold that against him? That's not fair. And the defense needs to go even farther than that, too. Remember what Judge Bramilla said to the jury after Thomas Pontarelli testified. He struck that witness's testimony, but he said to the jury, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to instruct you to disregard his testimony. The prosecutor asked a question to which she knew the answer would be inadmissible. The prosecution is not to seek a conviction at all costs. They are to seek justice. The defense should say, ladies and gentlemen, look what's happening here. The prosecutor is saying that my client can't keep receipts to even prove his innocence. They accuse him of a crime and say he shouldn't even be able to prove that he's innocent. That's not fair. That's not American. The defense needs to embrace those receipts.
So let's go out to Louis Gainor, great criminal defense attorney, joining us also from Joliet, Illinois. Louis, how about who does this help? When you talk about experience investigating, a death scene, and the experience for this guy is zero. I mean, from where I'm sitting, I'm thinking if I'm prosecutors, that's what I need, because I've got to sell to this jury that mistakes were made initially.
That's right. It cuts both ways. The prosecutor's going to say that there was an absence of experience, and so this rookie didn't know what he was doing. But you know what? There's a problem with that, and it's that he's right out of training, right out of school. He should have all of the good habits that he learned in the classroom, and the defense needs to hammer on that. It could go either way. I really can't.
So this is like Bizarro World, Louis, right? Is this going to be Bizarro World, where we have prosecutors trying to tear down an investigator and the defense trying to build him up?
Absolutely. How often do you see a trial with 2 autopsies? You just don't see that. And in this case, the prosecutor's going to call their own police officer, whom they rely on as a witness in almost every other case, and tear him down. It's just something very unusual, and you wonder what the relationship's going to be like between that officer and his department and this prosecutor's office after the trial.
Yeah.
Shifting the burden, Vinny.
Big piece here. Louis Gainor, let me bring in Louis on this one. Louis, I know I'm making no headway with Sam here, but how about you? I mean, motive is important, right? Doesn't a jury, don't you have to tell a jury why someone would kill another human being? Why someone would kill the mother of their own children?
That's right. When it comes to motive, the prosecution has a big problem. And it's that people get divorced all the time.
What?
Absolutely. Here's the issue, is that there are worse divorces going on in this courthouse as we speak. Are you kidding? Have you heard about child custody litigation? That is miserable and suffering. It goes on for years and costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. That doesn't mean that someone got murdered. It doesn't mean that.
No, he's not fighting over kids. He's fighting over money for his toys. The money he uses to attract younger women and new wives. That's what he wants to hold on to, his money.
Here's what the defense needs to do. They need to bring the jury back to the moment where they first got to the scene, and Drew Peterson said to one of the police officers, "This is my ex-wife. Treat the scene with respect." The prosecutor should have never let that in, because what that establishes is that Drew Peterson was still respectful of his ex-wife. And when he had the interview with the police officers and said things were going smoothly, this is how you play that with the jury. You said, listen, my client was taking the high road here. My client had said enough is enough. That woman is dead, but she was still my ex-wife, and we're going to honor her today. And I'm not going to make this personal. I need you to do your job and do it professionally, but I'm not going to make it personal. That's what that was. What Drew Peterson did was he treated her with respect, and he didn't disrespect the dead.
Yeah, well, you talk about respect. I don't know how respectful Drew Peterson was when he was taking a teenage girl into the basement of his house while his wife was sleeping upstairs. I mean, that's kind of disrespectful. Calling all the shots, that's much better for prosecutors in this case, isn't it?
Absolutely. What they want to show is that it was all a ruse. That Drew Peterson had staged the crime scene, and he knew he couldn't go up there until everybody else found it first. So here's the facts that the prosecutor needs to hammer on for the jury. Number one, the lock, the deadbolt was open. It was only the slam lock on the handle that had been closed, and that Drew Peterson waited outside. But here's the key fact that came out in the testimony, and it's fascinating. When Drew Peterson talked to the officer during the interview, he said he heard the scream, and he immediately ran to the bathroom. Well, that begs the question, why did he go to the bathroom? How did he know that the scene was in the bathroom? Why didn't he run to the bedroom down the hall? Why didn't he run to the kitchen? Because he knew that that's where the body was. That's what the prosecutor has got to impress upon the jury, is that he knew what the scream was coming from the beginning, despite the fact that he was standing outside. Now, on the other hand, the jury...
Well, let me stop you right there for a second,
defense...
Louis, because that's a great point, and that is why you are a fantastic lawyer. You pick up on these details. I mean, that is something that you might just be screaming at the top of your lungs in your closing argument if you are the prosecutor in this case. Let me go